Alrighty, guys, welcome back, and another League of Inches week, and another week of finals footy now into finals week two after some pretty good games actually over the first week, and it was an interesting week of footy. We've seen all the teams that shot out to probably 10 plus point leads end up getting mowed down and lost the game. So I think more than ever we saw that momentum in rugby league, especially with these new rules, are a big factor in the way the game's being played and how the results are out there going at the moment. And it was, it was an interesting way to see how the results went this week. So, but first off, obviously no hat tonight, but the hats off. Hats off would be for. I'm going with something a bit different this time. I'm actually going to go for the crowds. So the fans of rugby league, and obviously the weekend, the games are obviously a bit COVID restricted with the number of fans that could go to the games. But I thought I was at Suncorp Stadium, and it was a great atmosphere. It was very loud, and I thought through the TV, all the other three games were very loud and really, really good atmospheres. And I think that's another good reason why they stay with the suburban ground the first week of footy as well. So it was good to see. And just me and the OG of League of Inches is Sid tonight. Dane's been called up doing a few things. So, Sid, what did you make of the footy on the weekend and the crowd numbers?
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned it earlier via message. It felt more normal. Um, I looked at the crowds, less empty seats, which is great. Yeah, and the volume was there. We've come a long way since the fake crowd noises, that's for sure.
Yeah, the cardboard cutouts and the fake noise. So it's good to hear footy the way it should be played. So, but we'll get straight into it, and we're going to do some reviews of obviously the games over the weekend and talk a bit about the games to come on the weekend. So, first one was obviously Friday night, Penrith and the Roosters game, and I thought that was an absolute cracker to get us away for this year's final series. And we talked about it last week that it was going to be a cracker of a game, and I think it lived up to its hype. A lot of points were scored, which I thought was interesting for two teams that were very, very good defensively all year. They seemed to let in a fair few points in terms of, especially on the edges. There was a lot of gaps being formed for both teams, but um, it was interesting. I thought the Roosters had a really, really strong start, but Penrith didn't panic. And I said last week that I thought Penrith would be out in straight sets, so I've obviously got egg on my face now for that one. But I just thought it was interesting that a young team, obviously probably a little bit of nerves there to start with, but they settled down and got into it. Sid, what did you make of the game?
Oh, mate, it was a great game, a great start. It set we didn't know at the time, but it set the precedent for what was to come. A lot of high-scoring games. Looking back, well, geniuses in hindsight, and there are a number of contributors, including the six again and the speed of the game and less wrestle than ever. Also, at this point, the better teams are only playing, and those teams have perfected their backline moves.
Yeah,
You know, each of the teams that are left in the competition have four or five, anything up to six or seven moves that have like a 90% chance of scoring a try or at least making a break. And they're running moves at each other off quick playables and off six again. And that's why you're seeing the high scores. And that and the fast track, there's less dew on the ball. We're well into spring.
yeah.
You only really see, you only really see it in finals football. But they're just making it sing, and they're hitting each other on the chest with the ball, which is great. Again, it comes down to what's left, and these teams are left for a reason because they're
Yeah.
playing better than the other teams.
Yeah, I thought as well, just a good point for each team. I thought a big credit there, I thought on Friday night to Teddy Tedesco. I thought he was back to having one of his best games of the year, and he's obviously a big game player. We all know that. We've watched him for a number of years now, and I thought he really stood up. He was really dangerous, and I thought Penrith were on edge every time he had the ball. But my biggest hats off for this game would, I think, look, don't get me wrong, I think Cleary's a great player, probably the the form halfback of the comp at the moment. Don't get me wrong, and top 5 or top 3 players in the comp at the moment. But for me, Luai was outstanding. I thought he was the attacking threat all night. I thought he had that right edge of the Roosters pretty much on the back foot every time he touched the ball, and he just opened up their defence time after time. And just he's Dane, obviously he can't be here tonight, but we were having a chat in that chat, and he called him a grub a couple of times, but he's got that little bit of grub about him. But you do need that in a player. You need that bit of grub, and he's got a good mix of it. He's got the ability to back up, and has a little bit of grub to go with, and a bit of passion. So I thought, Leah, has a couple of good points there for both teams. That you got a couple of star players that did pick up and really performed on the big stage. What are you making of Luai, and what were you making of his game on the weekend?
Mate, it's this game is a long time coming. This performance on the big stage against not many teams bigger than the Roosters. 2-time premiership winners and chock full of stars. It is a long. When I say it's a long time coming, he's been building to this. He's been showing signs of what he can do. Players get pinged with a reputation like you're the next Peter Sterling, or you're the next this guy, or the next that guy. And for a long time, we've been waiting for the next Benji, and I think it's him. He reminds me a lot of a young Benji Marshall. He's very light on his feet. He's strong, solid in defence. His decision making is what reminds me most actually of Benji. Besides the Benji Marshall step, his decision making, whether he goes short inside out, or long, or grab a kick, or high kick, or go himself. His timing of his step is very, very high probability that he's going to beat his man. Even if it doesn't go through, he ends up between defenders, and he's up again playing the ball straight away. I'm very impressed. I'm like you. I'm very, very impressed with this kid. And add to that, he's got a good character. I know a little bit about his personal story, and good character goes a long way in my book. That's for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I thought, he shone, and a big reason why I think I've turned my thoughts on the Panthers around, and I honestly think they are now the real deal after that performance. It was their biggest test of the year, and they stood up and counted where it really mattered for them. And good luck to them next week. I think it's Para or South who have them, and it's going to be a hard game for either of those clubs to come up against a team that's in that much form. So obviously, first game for Saturday was the Raiders and the Sharks, and we pretty much had this going in a landslide to Canberra, all of us. But I'll tell you what, after watching the start of it, once again, Sharkies came out firing, and I was thinking, is this the Sharks of old, where they're just really tough footy team? And I think they was trying to play that. They just don't have the quality of players that they did have a couple of years ago to back that up. And obviously, no Johnson and players like your Paul Gallons and stuff that we used to be there in the back end of his day, and he'd be the one really there leading that charge. And obviously, a fully fit for feeder would have helped that as well. So that's obviously something that wasn't really quite there for him. But yeah, for the Raiders, it's a hard one for me to tell about the Raiders. Sid, I'll cross to you for more about this one, but I know you've rated the Raiders for pretty much the whole year. Where did you see this performance for them? I know they ended up winning by a comfortable margin, but what were you thinking about them?
It was a familiar scenario. I actually thought this would happen, and we mentioned that. I thought, look, Sharks are going to try to do their power game through the middle, and they did do that. But the thing is that you can't do it the whole game. Play at your maximum the whole game, and they just ran out of steam. Canberra's just hung in with them, and moments of individual brilliance. Picked up a few tries, one intercept as well, key moment. Jack White got 2, probably should have got 3 in my opinion. I thought that third one was a try. But with Canberra's early sluggish start, they've been doing it a lot this year. I've seen it more than 2-3 times actually, where they started slowly and then just grinded and then overrun the other team completely. I don't think it's a big cause for concern. It was good that they played the Sharks first for them, because I feel like Sharks are a first half team and they're a second half team, if you like. There is such a thing. Roosters are the same. Roosters start very, very fast. They try and build a quick lead, and then they get in to try and go into a grind. They do try to do it at the start of first half and second half, but it's going to be intriguing as to whether they can do it. I wonder if Roosters have anything left in the tank without writing them off. You never write off a champion team, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, but to answer your question, I mean, I'm not too worried about that. I think it's normal for Canberra these days. This Canberra, you know.
Player you mentioned there, obviously Jack Whiten, and he's been in a rare patch of form lately. Got a question about him I want to ask you is, do you think Whiten's form player of the comp at the moment?
Look, he's up there. He's definitely up there. It's very, very hard to say that. I mean, it's such a general term. There's so many different positions. You know, a lot of them are 5'8" at the moment and halfbacks. So, you know, Luai, Whiten, and Walker from South are just all in sublime form. They're in good touch. Their timing's good and the decisions are good. They have very different attributes. I'll add Kiwi to that bracket. It's very hard. I can't honestly, man. I can't answer that.
Yeah.
He's in good form. Yes, he's big. He's fast. If he gets between defenders, you know, he'll go through because he's just so strong. He can step at full speed, which is also dangerous. A lot of players have to stop to step so they can springboard off whatever they're going off. Like Brad Fittler used to do, actually. He used to step at full speed. It's very impressive. But I think the Raiders have been building for this. They've been waiting for their, their second attempt. You know, like they lost last year, and you know that's why they were my pick this year.
Yeah.
They've been pacing themselves, and they're building up nicely. And Whiten's form reflects that as well. He's building for this, and he's gone up again last week. He'll go up again this week.
I'll go as far as saying I think at present point, I think he's the best ball running player in the comp at the moment. That's what I'll say with him. I think he's in the top 3 players at the moment, but I think, and this is a dangerous sign for Queensland in an Origin when he's going to be playing centre, and that's all he has to do is just run the ball. That's what he's best at, and he's been scoring 2 or 3 tries pretty much per week at the moment, purely just for that. So dangerous signs this week, and another crackover game which we're going to get to. Obviously, for next game was the Storm and the Eels. Bit of a disappointing game for Para in terms of the result, but I thought on obviously a Para point of view, I thought we actually played pretty well, and I thought we gave a good account for ourselves for especially a game where if you read the papers or watched your media, you basically thought we were going to get beat by 60. So I thought we lost obviously Sevo quite early on, which was very hard, and people I've read were saying, "Oh, it's only a winger. Who cares?" It's about it. Then unsettles the whole rhythm of that side. So you've basically got your centre goes out to wing. You've got a interchange back rower coming on to play centre, and you've got Melbourne's backline, which pretty much all of them have pace. It just became too hard, and obviously a Storm outfit which gets some ball and gets a few favourable decisions, which they seem to get on a weekly basis. It was just hard to overcome for us, but obviously credit to the Storm. They were good enough to hang in there after once again we got to an early lead. The story of the week, as we spoke about, and it was the Storm that were good enough to come through. And I thought Pappenhausen was in a class of his own on the field. I knew that obviously you got your Smiths out there and things like that, but I thought he was a bit quiet on the weekend. I thought we sort of nullified him pretty well. It was Pappenhausen and Munster that obviously stood up, and rest of the game back to their favour, and they obviously have the flyer in Fox to finish a lot of those things off. So good news for both teams, I guess. How did you make that of that game, Sid? And you got the Storm up there as one of your favourites.
Yeah, unfortunately, yes. I'm not a big fan of the Storm. Probably for the same reason that, or in part the same reason that I'm not a big fan of the Roosters at the moment, only because it's just getting boring. Storm Roosters, Storm Roosters, Storm Roosters. So I'd like to see a different team do it. I think they will. Um, I think it'll be a different team that wins it. There's some good contenders. Now, as far as the game itself, I picked Parramatta. I was a little bit biased. I told you that as well. They started well, and I was like, wow, okay, might have tipped 4 from 4 here. But they got run down. They got probably beaten by a seasoned team that knows how to lift in intensity and tenacity. Probably the most polite word. So that they were all quite grubby. There was a lot of pushing, shoving. They were really trying to put Parramatta off their game. Like literally, 60% of their play the balls, when they had it, they would pushing and shoving and mouthing off to the marker, and you can't punch anymore. So they're just getting away with getting under blokes' skins, and at the same time they added a bit of class. So massive grubbiness and massive class. Just a very, very rare marriage of the two on the Storm.
Yeah. Obviously, the Sunday game had South and the Knights, and this was the biggest landslide of the weekend. South just pretty much pummeled them after Knights shot out to an early lead once again. But I think South's form and how they've been going lately really rubbed off on them. And I unfortunately didn't get to watch too much of this game. Watched a bit of it on my phone when I was out and about. I had a few things to do on Sunday, unfortunately. But for what I did watch, it was basically just South, Cody Walker, their form that they've just been able to do in that back line. It's the form back line for mine of the comp at the moment. They're just on an absolute roll. And as soon as it's like teams know what they're about to do, and it was happening with the Knights, and you can see it, but they're just so clinical with what they're doing at the moment. You just can't stop it. Sid, did you watch the game, and what were your thoughts on the game?
Yeah, I definitely watched it. I watched South closely because of the Wayne Bennett factor. I see a lot of similarities in their style to what we did in 2010. Still living in the past, 10 years later. And and I talked about set pieces. South is a great example. They have 4 or 5 or 6 set pieces. To the point, it's quite impressive that it shows the intelligence of these players where they were doing these set pieces with Latrell receiving the ball in dangerous area. Now they have Corey Allen there, fullback, but they're giving it to Cody Walker. But they didn't swap positions. So it's not like Cody Walker's running the line of the fullback in this set play. They're just giving it to Cody Walker instead. And they're just taking advantage of his white hot form, He's just going so good. And he's running he's doing everything at full pace. It's always a good sign with the team. And they're doing everything at full pace, catching and passing and running and, put a kick, put a chip and chase or whatever else it is. Just decisions at full pace. There's no hesitation at all. Very, very impressive. South, as you alluded to earlier, there was an early start, they went down swinging, but the class prevailed in the end. When it takes you 3-4 sets to score a try, and then when the other team gets a chance, the second tackle of the first set they score, it's very disheartening. And that's what happened to Newcastle. They were in the game, and they were punching, and they scored. And then when South had a chance, 1-2, bang, try. And then they had another chance, 1-2, Corey Allen on the other side. It's very disheartening, I can tell you. I've been there firsthand,
Yeah, I think full credit as well. I think Corey Allen's been an unsung hero for him at the moment, and everyone thought once Latrell went down, that was basically South's premiership chances down the drain. But Allen stepped up, and boy, I tell you what, I didn't know too much about him, but he's a great player for his own sake, and he's a great backup player. So tremendous work when you have a player like that come in, and basically it feels like your star's is still there. So. I guess for the next thing we're going to do, obviously go back and have a look at the quick season review for both teams that got bundled out, so your Sharks and your Knights. And for mine, first one's obviously the Sharks. And I put a couple of notes down. I said the injuries to them all year sort of seemed to play a bit of a big toll for the Sharks. I can't remember a game all year where they actually had their full strength 17 on the field. So I guess credit to that club and to John Morris. It was a challenging year for a rookie coach, so to speak. I know he's been in the job now for a bit over a year, but I still would consider him as a rookie coach. So very well done for him moving forward. I do think they need to sort of start changing their playing style, though. I spoke about it earlier with the Canberra game, that the team that won the premiership a couple of years ago, they had that tough will to stick in the game. And look, we're only going to score 12 points in this game, but you're not going to get anywhere near us. So that's the hard part for him. I think they need to start. Johnson sort of started to do it towards the end of this year, where he would bring a bit more flair to them and a bit more off the cuff sort of footy, which I think they've got to adapt to now, especially with the new rule changes. What are you making on this one, Sid? I thought the other thing I want to touch on with the Sharks is there's been a bit of pressure I've heard lately with John Morris. I actually thought he's been doing quite a good job and would like to see him stay on next year to keep doing what he is working for. I don't think Flanagan going in there is the right option, from a rumour that I've heard the last day or two about the Sharks looking at possibly him. I think that's a step backwards after having now 2 chances at that club. And I don't think a bloke who's had that should be anywhere near a first grade team. But anyway, back on the Sharks. And Sid, what do you make of their season? I know it's hard asking a Dragon supporter to be positive about the Sharks, but they've obviously made the 8, so you'd say at least a decent season for the Sharkies. What do you make of it?
Yeah, look, it was a decent season. I could talk about them. It's fine. I'm a professional media personality, so it's all right. But look, I was very, very impressed with the forwards. I call them the buffaloes that they have. All these young guys, they're just one after the other. Fafita took a step back, left a little void. Haminueli took over as the cornerstone front rower. Not many people know what that is, but we've talked about that before as well. And basically, it's the guy that takes the first hit up no matter what. He may have a slower play the ball, but he will attract a bunch of defenders. He'll skittle the defence, and then the next guy will go. You'll find it's always the same guy that takes the first hit up. Junior Paulo is your one, for example.
Yeah.
Paul Vaughan is the one is the cornerstone for the Dragons. So Haminuel is taken over, and I don't have to go through the names, but you've seen the young forwards that they have that have a good power game. They have a good young hooker as well in Brayley. I mean, they're quite promising. The outside back in patches look great, and Sean Johnson, when he's healthy and he's running the show, it's good. The downside is moving forward. Sean Johnson done his Achilles. I don't know if you know about that. Some people don't know just how bad that is. That elastic thing at the back of the heel. That usually go down like a sniper with no touch. No impact injuries are the worst. And it's a 6-month injury to the point where they're reconsidering offering him extension, considering that he was the top try assist, second or third in the line break assist. Wonderful output for that player. Sean Johnson, this is, and yeah, his career's in jeopardy because he's 28, 29. Those Achilles, they're very, very bad. So that's a big problem. The other one is very similar. Is Matt Moylan as well. He's had issues with his hamstrings to the point where he's getting medical advice as to whether he should retire. There's another hole, and then you have the bloke that lots of people love to hate because of his injuries is Dugan. So there's some holes, and we always talk about the teams that when we did the reviews of the lower teams that there are hole or that they need to rebuild. But where's the talent? They're going to have to look, to juniors. They're going to have to look within. They're going to have to, be smarter coaching. If you can't buy at this point, your off season when it starts, if there's a player that you think might be good enough, you need to bulk him up and get him ready for a grueling rugby league, in a real season. Toughest sport in the world, in the toughest. So those are the issues for the Sharks. That and the obvious one is the defence was, I think, 13th or 14th points conceded. So they're forever, it puts a lot of pressure on the attack.
It was very leaky.
Yeah.
But just on what you said, I touched on with Moylan is that I guess for a Cronulla point of view, I guess in a selfish way to be a fan of Cronulla, you'd be hoping that he would get medically retired because that's 800K on their salary cap at the moment that he's taking. That couldn't bring in 2 to 3 decent players that can add to that squad. But as you said, there's not much at the moment around in terms of buying. But you never know with rugby league. It's the game that you can have someone locked in for a 3-year contract, 4-year contract, and next minute they're walking out the door saying goodbye and welcome to a new club. So you never know. But it'll be interesting next few weeks what happens with Moylan and a couple of their other players that, as you've touched on, are looking to get either a retirement or moved on and things like that. But the other team to quickly touch on would just be a team that Sid's obviously like to talk about this year because of one star player that they've got, and that's the Newcastle Knights, who obviously finished 7th this year. And a couple of points I made would be the obvious one that we've touched on a lot of here on League of Inches would be the Pearce-Ponga combination. It obviously needs to be worked on quite a bit in this off-season. It's make or break for that combination coming in. I know that from what I've read, they want to look at ways to improve Pearce's impact and not have everything rely on him. I think they've already got the ready-made replacement there with Ponga, so I don't know what they need to look at too much in that club. They've got the guy who's there ready to take off and go. And the other one would be, I guess, for that, one thing I noticed with the Knights, I thought today when I was thinking about when I was making some notes for this was when was the Knights looking their best this year? And it was when they had Blake Green at 5'8" for those few games before he actually got injured. And that's just a steady number 6 who gets the forwards going, has people where they need to go, and then basically just says, here you go, and passes to Ponga. For mine, that's when the Knights were their best and looked their best this year. So do they go out and look out for a steady number 6 for next year? Is that someone like your Benji Marshall or someone? Do you tell him to come on for a year and just be there to steady the ship and just make sure that ball gets to Ponga? They're both Kiwis. Everyone knows, played rugby league or touch that you get the Kiwi combinations going, they can provide some magic. So you never know. But Sid, obviously, you very much enjoyed talking about Pearce and the Knights this year. What were your thoughts on the Knights?
Yeah, we did start talking about. I told you that them and Cronulla they're gonna have their Mad Monday this week. Their achievement was that they made the 8 first time since 2013. And they still have an identity issue with their game plan. But it's not clear. Whereas the good teams, you'll see a clear game plan, and it's inevitably the same or similar every game, unless they have a tactical change, and then the game that they change, the tactic for the whole game they're playing it. So Newcastle lack an identity in attack. As far as the holes in their squad, there are some options. I think they're going to go with a young guy named Tex Hoy. I don't know if you know him.
Yeah, he's been playing off the bench a little bit this year.
Yeah, he's a 5'8" or fullback. He can play centre if he needs to. He sees himself as a fullback, but I don't think he's going to use Ponga anytime soon, unless they try another Ponga experiment at 5'8". We saw how that went last time. I don't know if it'll work a second time, but I think they'll go with Tex. He's a good talent, not quite in like a wonder kid level of Ponga, but he's a good talent. Incredibly confident. I'd say more of a runner than a creator. It'd be interesting to see if they do that. The point of me bringing that up is that does he take the organisation, take a bit of the organisation responsibility off Pearce? The whole point of what they're saying, what they're implying certainly, is that they don't want to take the responsibility off Pearce. But he's not fast. He's not like overly tricky. He doesn't have a great step. He steps 5 meters from the line half the time. So that means they adjust and they tackle him anyways. I don't know if you noticed that. So if he's not the organizer, what's he there for? He's the old head. what's he there for? You know,
Yeah.
so yeah, look, then they have some decisions to make. I mean, you know, I think Benji's a good idea, but I think Benji might end up with the Sharks. If
Okay.
Sean Johnson, yeah, if Sean Johnson can't come back from this Achilles issue, they'll lose Sean Johnson. They'll lose Moylan. Benji's proved he can be the creator as well as the organizer. He's played 6 and he's played
Mm.
7. I think he's done competently well.
And
And
they'll need coverage for a year at least. So
yeah, yeah,
that's not
somebody
a bad idea.
I think like it's a guess, but that's what I think I can see happening. But yeah, as far as the Knights, it's an issue. I mean, the forwards are right. The outside backs indifferent. Bradman Best will be better for the run out. At their best, they look good, but they need to sort something out, and then they need an identity. It's going to show a lot about the coach as well, whether he's as good as his reputation suggests.
Yeah, 100%. Look, we'll move on from that one, and I want to quickly bring up, obviously, last week games. We didn't touch on the NRLW, but I just wanted to quickly mention a couple of names that, personally, I completely forgot they actually signed on to the NRLW, but when I watched them on the weekend, just Elliot Green and obviously Charlotte Gasley both came from Rugby Sevens to, obviously, I think probably keep fit while that tournament's not going. And I'll tell you what, it was good to just see just different class of athlete in that comp, and they both just came and looked like they've been playing league for a number of years. And I think Charlotte's now gone to fullback for this week, and I think that's going to suit her even better than 5'8". It's pretty much a similar style of play. But and Elliot Green, she's so quick. If Warriors can get her in some bit more spaces and things like that, it's going to be entertaining to watch. But I thought the NRLW was great to watch as well on the weekend. Obviously, I thought my prediction was obviously the Dragons to go all the way with this comp, but they've had a hiccup to start with. So I'm not going to write them off yet. I think this year is going to actually be a really close one for these 4 group of girls, and good luck to all teams. But yeah, well done for those 2, and it was great to see some. Hopefully a few more come over. I think it's a good time to get them over and play a month of league and get them all interested. So, but let's just quickly, we've got obviously a couple minutes to go on the video and touch on the previews for this week's games, and both are crackers, if you ask me. And the first one, probably the game out of the 2, which is the big grand final rematch. And I just want to sort of ask Sid quickly, how much does that play a part in this game being the grand final rematch? How would you go into the game, and does it mean the Raiders are a favoured team because they'll have the fire burning? How would that play a part in this game?
Well, this is the game they've been waiting for. This is revenge. Raiders are going to come for them. Raiders won't be playing like, oh, we've got 2 more games after this. Roosters are the one they're after, Yeah. And I strongly believe they're going to give it everything. Whether they get fatigue or injuries, they don't care. They're gonna go. They're coming for the Roosters this week. That's my prediction. And again, whether the Roosters have enough to repel that, enough individual brilliance to counter that as well. It's going to be intriguing.
I'm calling this one. I'm calling this one the League of Inches Cup, actually, because I just remembered I've predicted the Roosters to win the comp, and Sid's predicted the Raiders to win the comp. So this is the League of Inches Cup. So I'm going to go and ask the great Volandis to quickly make the cup up, and I'll be there to present them on the day. So I think also the White and Kiri matchup for mine is the matchup of the week. Both obviously the 2 of the 4 and 5/8 in the comp, as well as obviously Luai. And I think that's going to be a great matchup. Both play completely different styles of play, but it's going to be great to see two of the best number 6s running around, pretty much to get their team home. So I think whoever has a better game out of those 2, their team will win on Friday night. So I think for the Roosters, one other thing I've noticed with them is that Friend being back now is a massive in for him, because I thought against Penrith, when they started with Lussick at hooker before he got injured, they looked really good. They had a strong dummy half service coming out. He was quick. Orbo, look, you can't bag Orbo. He's one of those players that's always there for the boys and always puts in an effort. But he was just a bit slower with his service, and I think Roosters lacked with that the other night. They sort of seemed to go down once that injury happened. So I think your friend going for them back in for them is massive. So I am obviously tipping the Roosters, but I think that's a big in for him. And I think, Sid, where do you think the Raiders are winning this one? Because you're obviously picking them. So where do they win it from here?
I think it'll be an ambush. They're going to be coming together. We're going to try and hurt people legally. And I think Raiders will win in the forwards. I reckon the Raiders have got them in the forwards. They're a little bit fresher. They're a little bit younger, more dynamic. They got a little bit more punch at the moment. I know guys like Isaac Liu and Takiaho still hit the line quite hard, but the other forwards in the Roosters aren't hitting the line as hard. And Wirra Hargraves is out, so he's suspended this week. So that's a big out.
Yeah,
it could be season gone to lose. After a poor performance, he'd be filthy if they lose.
Yeah.
He doesn't get a chance to redeem himself. You have to sit on his paws for 6 months till next year. But I think the Raiders are doing it.
Yeah, great work. And I actually think Roosters will win this through a couple of individual players' brilliance with obviously Teddy, Kiri. And I think Manu might open up a bit more this week. And I think he's up against Croker. He might give him a bit of a bath. Let's see what happens there. But the other games, obviously Para and South. That's on the Saturday. Obviously, a couple of the key points will just be can Para recover from the loss of both Sevo and Niokora, who's done a great job off the bench and provide a lot of impact when he does come on, and possibly Fergo out as well. So we might have both wingers out. So it's going to be a battle of, for mine in the forwards. I think we can. South, we've already touched on it. They've got the momentum up. It's hard to play teams that have this at the moment. I guess as a fan, when you think about what's going on, it's hard to sort of be too positive about this weekend. It sort of feels like it's a game where Souths continue this roller coaster of momentum, but to sort of give us Para fans hope, I sort of thought about it as well today, and I thought the best way to beat South, I actually feel like their forward pack is a little bit weak. I think if we can get Junior and Madison and those guys to be offloading and have Moses, Dylan Brown, Gutho in around that middle of the pack, we can actually get some holes and create something there. So obviously got to be biased here and tip the Mighty Eels at Bankwest. I've heard it's already sold out as well, so a lot of blue and gold at the game to get us home, hopefully. Sid, where do you see this one? And I guess you can be hurtful. If you do want to tip South, I'll hold nothing against you.
Well, man, I'm a little bit torn because, I told you I've got a soft spot for Parramatta. But I also have a soft spot for South because of Wayne Bennett, just forever sticking it to the Broncos for the way they treated him. So in the way the Souths are playing is just so good. We've seen it and we've discussed it. It's there for all to see. You do make a very good point. Parramatta forwards in comparison, particularly their starting front row. The 1-2 punch of Paulo and Campbell Gillard. Paulo first, of course, is the cornerstone, and Campbell Gillard, if he gets the crazy eyes, which he hasn't done for a while, if he gets mental, then he's going to be hard to contain. The good thing is when he gets angry, he doesn't he's not going to give a loose arm high tackle or a crusher or give away silly penalties like a lot of the enforcers do when they get angry. That you got to expect giving away a couple of penalties. He's quite clean for an angry front row, But South is very, very well coached. They're real drilled. The defence, not many weaknesses, and they've got better attacks. So unless they can rattle them, unless Eels can rattle them, the South will just have too much points in. Eels will start well though, like they did last week. But I'm leaning towards South. Unfortunately, sorry mate, I'm leaning towards South on this one.
No, nothing personal, brother. We're here to be experts. So, your expert analysis is much welcomed here, and I'll never hold anything personal to you. But I'm not sending you a Christmas card this year, so enjoy that one. Look, I also think that I guess South. The thing that I think the thing that can drive Parramatta, you touched on Campbell Geller, but the other one is Nathan Brown, and he's been the heart and soul for Parramatta for each time he's on. Just the way he goes hard. He is a bit of an angry merc, and he's a bit of a guy that is a bit loose, a bit crazy. So he might come in with as the odd swinging arm, but you need that in finals football. And if we're going to give it to South, we need someone who's going to come up out of the line and hit Walker and hit those sorts of guys and get them off their game. So hopefully that's what happens. But I think if our forwards can fire, we can cause an upset. I think we can do the club mighty proud and have a Western semi-final, which would be massive for rugby league. And I think it'd be crying out for something like that. So, but obviously finish up. Just wanted to get a quick bold prediction for coming in for this weekend's games. And obviously, like last week, can be a player, can be a team, a coach, whatever you want, Sid.
Interesting. Okay. A bold prediction. Yeah. Well, I've given you most of it. I think Canberra to win and Papali to score. I try.
Okay.
That's
one of his charges.
Yeah, he's been scoring up in the middle, and he hasn't done one in a few weeks. And he got one against Roosters last time with Maria Hargrave's not there. I think he's going to go right up the guts.
Okay, big prediction. I'm predicting in the same game. I'm actually predicting Teddy to have the best individual game of the years to date out of all the games, and guide his team to victory with one of the all-time great performances. I think he's going to take off, and Canberra just won't be able to contain him. So one final thing to all the viewers that have obviously been watching till the end of this video. It was the great man's 40th a couple of days ago. So if your friends are on Facebook, or he's now got Instagram as well. So good old Sid, happy 40th, brother. And again, pity your women's team couldn't even win for you, but I think that's just the DNA of the club at the moment, and hopefully they get rid of that by December, January of next year. So, but happy birthday! I hope you had a good time over the weekend celebrating with the little ones and the family.
Thanks, mate. Thanks, I appreciate it. It was good. Obviously we're in a different time. Can't really do parties unless everyone sits down. I don't know what we're going to do. Tea party? Seriously, So we just had a barbecue home with the family, and we went down the South Coast for a bit. Just my, the wife and the two little ones. It was good,
You would have liked that. That's your ideal situation, to sit there, watch the footy, shut up, don't talk to me, and I'm happy. Happy birthday to me.
That's it. Yeah, and the wife said, "Go get beer if you want. It's all right." I got express permission.
There we go. But anyway, guys, I hope you all enjoyed the first week of finals footy. I think finals week 2 is going to be bigger and better again. A couple of the better teams all going at it, and basically it's elimination footy now. Any team that loses is out enjoying being out of the bubble, so to speak. So good luck. We'll have Dane back on board next week to look over these 2 games, and look forward to 2 big semi-finals. But enjoy the rest of your week, guys, and go to whatever team you're going for, unless you're going for South, so you can go and get stuffed. Goodbye, guys.
See you, mate.